Welcome to the Mobiso BroadSoft BroadWorks platform integration training video. Mobiso has the ability to integrate with the BroadSoft BroadWorks platform for data integration, user authorization, BroadWorks Anywhere, and Meet Me conferencing. With the BroadWorks data integration, Mobiso can reach out to your BroadWorks platform and retrieve the corporate directory. BroadWorks Authorization allows Mobiso to authenticate your users against the BroadWorks system through the use of their voicemail PIN, thereby reducing the need to remember yet another password. BroadWorks Anywhere integration enables voice commands to change the user's BroadWorks Anywhere location and/or phone numbers. And finally, Meet Me conferencing integration enables users to create ad hoc conferences on the BroadWorks Meet Me platform simply by speaking the attendee names. Mobiso can be configured to use the BroadWorks server for its user data feed. Data integration is a prerequisite for user authorization, BroadWorks Anywhere, and Meet Me conferencing. Data integration is administered from the Directory Management Data Integration page. To configure a new data integration profile, click New, then select BroadWorks Directory from the Vendor Service drop-down list. Enter the protocol, EWS domain name, and the BroadWorks user ID and password that will be used for authentication against the BroadWorks server. If you want the profile to execute when the directory update scheduled task is run, change the auto process setting to 1. Make sure to click the Enable checkbox to enable this profile. Before you can save an enabled profile, it is necessary to test the connectivity to the BroadWorks server and validate the credentials. Click the Test button, and after the validation completes successfully, you will be able to save the profile. Once the profile is saved, you can manually execute the data process by selecting the profile and then clicking the Execute button. This will retrieve the data and display the results of the data validation process. Click Load to load the retrieved data. The results of the load process will be shown for your review. Please note that audio files are not retrieved from the BroadWorks server through the data feed. The BroadWorks server will need to be configured to send the audio files to the Mobiso server. Please refer to the BroadWorks Recorded Name Location Process Appendix of the Mobiso Admin Guide for information on configuring this process. Mobiso can be configured to authenticate against a BroadWorks server for user authentication. This will allow users to authenticate within Mobiso with their BroadWorks voicemail password. The BroadWorks Authentication service is a prerequisite for other Mobiso-supported BroadWorks services such as BroadWorks Anywhere and Meet Me conferencing. For BroadWorks Authentication to function properly, users must have BroadWorks Voice Portal access. The user's account in the BroadWorks Voice Portal must have the BroadWorks Authentication service assigned, and users must set their BroadWorks Voice Portal password to a numeric-only value. BroadWorks Authentication is configured on the System Management Tenant Services page. To configure the authentication service, click New, and then select BroadWorks Authentication from the Vendor Service drop-down list. Enter the protocol and the fully qualified domain name of the XSI server that will be used for authentication. If you are using a non-standard port for the protocol, enter the port number into the port field. If you want to enable this profile, make sure to check the Enabled box and then test the configuration by clicking the Test button. After the test completes successfully, you will be able to save the configuration by clicking the Save button. Now, whenever a caller in Mobiso needs to authenticate, they will be able to enter their BroadWorks Voice Portal password. Since the password is not stored locally on the Mobiso server, if a user changes their password on the BroadWorks system, the user can immediately authenticate in Mobiso with their new password. With the BroadWorks Anywhere integration, users are able to update their BroadWorks Anywhere coverage by saying, Set Find Me to Home, Office, Mobile. Before configuring the BroadWorks Anywhere integration, the BroadWorks Authentication service must be configured. For BroadWorks Anywhere to function properly, every user must have the authentication and the BroadWorks Anywhere services assigned to their BroadWorks account. Configuration of the BroadWorks Find Me service is handled on the Call Processing, Call Services page. Click New and select BroadWorks Find Me from the Vendor Service drop-down list. Enter the protocol and the fully qualified domain name of the XSI server. If you are using a non-standard port for the protocol, enter the port number into the port field. If you want to enable this profile, make sure to check the Enabled box and then test the configuration by clicking the Test button. After the test completes successfully, you will be able to save the profile by clicking the Save button. After configuring the BroadWorks Find Me service, authenticated callers will be able to call into Mobiso and update their BroadWorks Anywhere coverage by saying, "Set Find Me to Home, Office, or Mobile." The BroadWorks Meet Me conferencing service may be used with Mobiso to create ad hoc conferences. Once configured, callers to Mobiso will be able to say "Conferencing" and will then be able to add users by name into the conference. Before configuring the BroadWorks Meet Me conferencing integration, the BroadWorks Authentication service must be configured. A conference bridge will need to be configured on the BroadWorks server. The owner information for the bridge will be used to complete the Mobiso configuration. Please note that all ad hoc conferences created through Mobiso will use this one conference bridge and will be owned by one person. Configuration of the BroadWorks Meet Me conferencing service is handled on the Call Processing, Call Services page. Click New and select BroadWorks Meet Me from the Vendor Service drop-down list. Enter the conference bridge owner's telephone number into the conference owner field. Enter the conference bridge owner's voice portal password into the conference owner password field. Note that the password must be digits only. Enter the conference bridge name as defined on the BroadWorks server, including the domain, into the conference bridge name field. Enter the conference bridge phone number, maximum number of conference participants, conference bridge host's fully qualified domain name, protocol, and port number into the respective fields. Make sure to check the Enabled box to enable this profile, and then test the configuration by clicking the Test button. After the test completes successfully, you'll be able to save the profile by clicking the Save button. Once the conferencing profile has been saved, authenticated callers into Mobiso will be able to say "Conferencing" and will then be able to add people to a conference by saying a name, department, team, or telephone number. This concludes the video of how Mobiso can integrate with the BroadSoft BroadWorks platform for data integration, user authentication, BroadWorks Anywhere, and Meet Me conferencing. For additional information on configuring and using Mobiso, please refer to the admin guide and to additional training videos available online.